If you have ever walked into a room full of antiques and felt a sudden, crushing weight land on your chest without warning, then this message is meant specifically for you. If you have ever picked up a ring at an estate sale or touched a piece of fabric in a thrift store and felt an inexplicable wave of nausea or a sharp, electric sting in your fingertips, stop scrolling immediately. You are not imagining things. You are not overly sensitive, and you are certainly not losing your mind. What you are experiencing is a biological function that modern science is only beginning to understand, but which Edgar Cayce, the father of holistic medicine, identified over 80 years ago. This video is going to explain why your body reacts violently to certain objects. It will explain why you sometimes feel emotions that do not belong to you. We are going to discuss the hidden danger of touching objects that belong to those who have crossed over. But more importantly, we are going to unlock why this is happening to you right now. If you were born with a lifeline on your left hand that is deeply etched and perhaps broken or frayed in the center, or if you have found yourself waking up between the hours of 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning with a sense of urgency, then you are part of a very specific group of souls. Cayce called you the sensitive instruments. The world might tell you that you are anxious. Doctors might tell you that you are depressed or suffering from fatigue. But the Akashic records tell a different story. You are a vibrational reader. You are a living, breathing Geiger counter for spiritual residue. And right now, your instrument is overloaded. Let us go deeper into this sensation, because specificity is the key to your freedom. Imagine you are holding a pocket watch that belonged to a man who died in anger. To the average person, that watch is just metal and glass. They see the craftsmanship. They see the gold plating. They see a bargain. But when you touch it, something happens in the cellular structure of your skin. You do not just feel the cold metal. You feel the anger. You feel the restriction in the throat. You might even taste the metallic flavor of adrenaline in the back of your mouth. This is because matter is not solid. Edgar Cayce taught us long before quantum physics caught up that everything is vibration. Every atom in that watch is vibrating at a specific frequency. And when a human being interacts with an object every single day for 30 or 40 years, they imprint their vibrational signature onto that object. It is like a recording on a magnetic tape. Most people are deaf to this recording. They can wear the ring of a deceased grandmother and feel nothing but nostalgia. But you are different. Your magnetic field is more porous. Your aura is not a wall. It is a membrane. This is why you feel exhausted after walking through a crowded mall. This is why you prefer the company of animals to humans. This is why you cannot sleep in certain hotel rooms. You are picking up on the static electricity of 1,000 different souls. And when it comes to the objects of the departed, the signal is amplified 10,000 times. There is a reason why ancient cultures burned the possessions of the dead. They understood what Cayce saw in his trance states. They understood that emotions are not just abstract thoughts. Emotions are energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. When a person passes away, especially if the passing was traumatic or sudden or filled with regret, that energy does not simply vanish into the ether. It clings. It adheres to the physical plane. It saturates the favorite chair. It embeds itself in the jewelry they wore against their skin. It locks itself into the mirrors they looked into every morning. And when you, the sensitive, touch these objects, you are effectively completing the circuit. You are touching a live wire. This is why you might feel a sudden drop in temperature around your ankles. or a ringing in your left ear that sounds like a high-pitched radio frequency. These are not symptoms of illness. These are signs of contact. Edgar Cayce warned that we must be incredibly careful with what we bring into our homes. He spoke of influences that can linger in material things. He described how a bed frame used by someone suffering from a long, painful illness could actually transfer the vibration of disease to the next sleeper. This sounds terrifying to the uninitiated, but for you, it is validation. It explains why you bought that vintage mirror and suddenly started having nightmares about drowning. It explains why you wore that second-hand coat and felt a deep, unshakable sorrow for 3 weeks straight. You were processing an emotion that was never yours to begin with. You were doing the heavy lifting for a soul you never met. This is the invisible burden of the sensitive. You are the unintended custodians of the world's emotional trash. But here's the shift. Here is where we change the narrative from victimhood to power. This sensitivity is not a curse. It is a sophisticated survival mechanism that has been dormant in the human genome for 5,000 years. You are designed to feel this. You are the early warning system for your tribe. In ancient times, people like you were the shamans and the seers who could touch a stone and tell if the water nearby was poisoned. You could walk into a valley and feel if a battle had been fought there, warning your people to stay away from the bad blood. Today, in our modern, plastic, sterilized world, there is no place for this skill. So it turns inward. It manifests as anxiety. It manifests as chronic fatigue syndrome. It manifests as fibromyalgia. Because your body is screaming at you to stop touching the radioactive waste of other people's lives. Edgar Cayce gave us a roadmap to manage this. He gave us specific instructions on how to cleanse these objects. And more importantly, which objects you must never, ever touch, no matter how beautiful they are. There are materials that hold on to the soul's vibration more tightly than others. There are specific gemstones that act as storage batteries for trauma. And in the next few minutes, I am going to reveal exactly what those materials are. I am going to tell you why you should never wear a pearl that belonged to someone who died of a broken heart. I am going to explain the peculiar conductivity of gold versus silver when it comes to spiritual attachment. But first, you need to accept your nature. You need to stop fighting your own intuition. If you walk into a house and your stomach drops, you must listen. If you hold an object and your hands start to sweat, put it down. Do not rationalize it. Do not tell yourself you are being silly. Your cellular memory is older and wiser than your conscious brain. You are navigating a world of invisible currents. Most people are swimming blind, but you can feel the temperature of the water. You can feel the undertow. Edgar Cayce said that the body is the temple. For you, that temple has very thin walls. This allows the light to get in, yes, but it also lets the dust in. We are going to teach you how to reinforce those walls without closing your heart. We are going to teach you how to be a filter, not a sponge. But to do that, you must acknowledge the reality of the energy you are interacting with. Think about the last time you felt this. Maybe it was a week ago. Maybe it was this morning. Think about the sudden mood swing that came out of nowhere. Was it yours? Or did you brush against the history of a stranger? Did you sit in a chair at a waiting room and absorb the fear of the person who sat there before you? This is the daily reality of the warrior of the invisible. You are fighting battles on the astral plane while buying groceries. You are transmuting grief while waiting for the bus. It is exhausting work. And it is time you received the credit for it. It is time you learned the rules of engagement. Because once you understand how to identify these haunted objects, and once you understand how to shield your own energy field using the techniques found in the Cayce readings, everything changes. The fatigue lifts. The brain fog clears. The anxiety dissolves because you finally understand its source. You are not broken. You are a high-fidelity receiver in a world full of static noise. So before we dive into the forbidden objects, I need you to make a declaration. I need you to anchor this truth into your reality. I want you to take a deep breath and feel the air filling your lungs, grounding you in this present moment. And I want you to leave a comment below. Write this down to signal to your subconscious that you are taking back control. Write, I am the guardian of my own, say it with me. I am the guardian of my own energy. Because what I am about to tell you regarding the specific dangers of antique jewelry and heirloom furniture might just save your life, or at the very least, it will save your soul from carrying a weight it was never meant to bear. Let us open the files. Let us look at what the sleeping prophet really said about the physics of the afterlife and the dangerous souvenirs the dead leave behind. You have to understand that when Edgar Cayce looked at the world, he did not see solid objects the way you and I see them. He did not see a chair or a ring or a coat as dead static matter. He saw them as swirling vortexes of atomic motion. He saw them as libraries. Because according to the readings on natural philosophy and the vibratory nature of the universe, every single atom has a consciousness. Every electron spinning around a nucleus is recording the environment it exists in. Think of it like the magnetic tape in an old cassette recorder from the 1980s. The tape itself is just plastic and rust, but when you run an electrical charge through it, the tape holds a voice forever. Matter works exactly the same way. And this leads us to what Cayce called the hierarchy of conductivity. You need to pay very close attention to this part, because not all objects are created equal, and not all objects hold the ghost of a memory with the same intensity. Some materials are like Teflon, where the energy slides right off and dissipates into the ether. But other materials are like high-performance batteries that charge up for 50 years and then discharge that energy directly into your aura the moment you touch them. We are going to talk about the most dangerous class of these artifacts right now. The first and most potent category is conductive metals and crystalline structures. We are talking about gold. We are talking about silver. We are talking about platinum. And we are talking about precious gemstones like diamonds and rubies and sapphires. Science tells us that metals are excellent conductors of electricity and heat, but Cayce took it a step further. He explained that gold is a superconductor of emotional ether. Think about the wedding ring you inherited from your grandmother, or that vintage locket you found at an estate sale. These items were not just sitting on a shelf. They were worn against the skin. They were in constant contact with the heat of the blood and the pulse of the heart. They were there during the arguments. They were there during the moments of devastating grief. They were there during the slow decline of illness. Gold loves to hold on to a charge. When you wear a ring that belonged to someone who passed away in a state of fear or regret, you are literally wrapping that frozen vibration around your finger. You are creating a closed circuit. And because your blood contains iron and your nervous system runs on electrical impulses, you become the new battery that powers that old memory. Have you ever put on a piece of vintage jewelry and suddenly felt a wave of heaviness that you could not explain? Have you ever felt a sudden drop in your mood or a flash of anxiety that did not belong to you? If you answered yes to that, I need you to understand that you are not crazy. You are high-functioning. Your sensitivity is picking up on the broadcast signal stored inside the atomic lattice of that metal. The diamond in that ring is a crystal, and crystals are used in computers to store data. That heirloom diamond is a hard drive full of someone else's trauma, and you have been walking around with it, plugged into your energy field. Cayce warned that gemstones can hold a vibratory pattern for thousands of years. They do not forget. Unless they are properly cleansed, which is a protocol we will get to later, they simply loop the same emotional signal over and over again. But it is not just jewelry that you need to be wary of. The second category of high-conductivity artifacts is organic porous materials. This means wood. This means leather. This means natural fibers like wool and cotton. Let us speak specifically about furniture. The antique bed frame, the rocking chair, the heavy oak desk. Wood was once alive. It breathed. It pulled water from the earth and sunlight from the sky. And because it was once a living biological entity, it retains a cellular memory that is very sticky. Consider the antique bed frame you bought because it looked beautiful and rustic. In the 19th century and the early 20th century, people did not die in hospitals. They died in their beds. They spent months or sometimes years in those beds, suffering from consumption or fever or pain. They sweat into the wood. They wept into the wood. Their final release of spirit happened on that physical platform. Wood is like a sponge. If you spill water on a table, the wood drinks it up and swells. If you spill emotional agony into a room for 10 years, the wood drinks that up too. Cayce described instances where people began to develop the symptoms of the previous owner simply by sleeping on the same bed or sitting in the same favorite chair. It is a phenomenon known as sympathetic vibration. Your healthy energy field comes into contact with the diseased frequency stored in the wood, and your body tries to match that frequency out of a subconscious habit. You might start feeling pains in your legs that have no medical cause. You might start having insomnia that feels like someone is watching you. This is the physics of the atmosphere. And then we have the third category, which is perhaps the most intimate and the most overlooked. Clothing, textiles, the vintage coat, the wedding dress passed down through generations. You might think that dry cleaning removes the energy, but you would be wrong. Chemicals remove dirt. Chemicals remove oils. But chemicals do not remove the etheric imprint of the person who wore that garment during the most intense moments of their life. If you are wearing the coat of a man who died in a state of confusion, you are wrapping your solar plexus and your heart chakra in a blanket of confusion. You are literally dressing yourself in another person's identity. This is why Cayce was so adamant about the vibrations of our surroundings. He was not trying to make us fearful of the past. He was trying to make us conscious of the inputs we allow into our system. You are a sensitive receiver. You are a beacon of light in a world that is often dense and foggy. When you bring these objects into your sanctuary without understanding what they are carrying, you are inviting static into your signal. You are cluttering your own Akashic record with footnotes that do not belong to you. And there is one object, one specific household item that stands above all others in its ability to trap and project energy. It is not metal. It is not wood. It is a portal. Cayce spoke of this item with extreme caution because unlike a ring or a chair, this object does not just store energy. It reflects the soul back unto itself. It can trap fragments of personality that are stuck between this world and the next. Most of you have this object in your bedroom right now facing you while you sleep, and you have no idea that it is acting as a doorway. If you want to know what this object is and how to seal it so that nothing unwanted can come through, I need you to stick with me. Because the next revelation might explain why you have been waking up tired for years. We are going deeper into the anatomy of the unseen. Stay focused. The object is the mirror. specifically the vintage mirror, the antique-looking glass that has passed through 3 generations of hands before it ended up on your wall. You must understand the physics of the spirit world to understand why this is dangerous. Edgar Cayce taught us that water is the universal conductor of psychic energy. Water holds memory. It holds vibration. And a mirror is nothing more than a solid simulation of water. It is glass over silver or aluminum. It creates a depth that does not exist in our physical 3 dimensions. When a person stands before a mirror day after day for 40 years, they are projecting their self-image into that surface. If they were sick, if they were depressed, if they looked into that glass and hated the aging of their face or the sorrow in their eyes, that emotion is not just a fleeting thought. It is a frequency. And that frequency gets trapped in the molecular structure of the glass, just as sound gets trapped in the grooves of a vinyl record. When you sleep facing that mirror, you are opening a line of communication with every emotion ever projected into it. This is why you wake up exhausted. You are processing the grief of a stranger or the anxiety of a deceased relative while your body tries to repair itself. But do not panic. You do not need to destroy the heirloom. You need to become the alchemist. This is where we shift your identity from a victim of hauntings to a master of atmosphere. Cayce gave us the tools to scrub these vibrations clean, but it requires more than just soap and water. It requires the alchemist's protocol. There are 3 steps to this protocol, and you cannot skip a single one or the residue will remain. Step 1 is the chemical break. You must understand that psychic energy is like a grease. It is sticky. To dissolve it, you need an agent that disrupts the ionic bond of the energy. Cayce frequently recommended natural cleaners that carry a high vibration. Mix distilled water with apple cider vinegar. The acidity acts as a breaker. But before you wipe the surface, you must add a pinch of sea salt. Salt is crystalline. It is the Earth's natural absorber of negativity. It structures the water. As you wipe that mirror, you are not just cleaning dust. You must visualize that you are wiping away a film of gray static. You are wiping away the history. You are resetting the timeline of that object to 0. Step 2 is the solar bath. This is the step 90% of people ignore, and it is why they fail. You must take that object specifically, if it is a mirror or jewelry worn by the deceased, and place it in direct sunlight for a minimum of 4 hours. The sun is not just heat. It is information. It is pure, unadulterated life force energy. The ultraviolet rays act as a spiritual bleach. They burn off the lingering etheric threads that are still attached to the previous owner. If the object is too heavy to move, you must open the windows and let the light hit it, or use a strong visualization of white fire engulfing the item. Step 3 is the verbal command. This comes from the principle that Cayce repeated thousands of times. Mind is the builder. Your thought allows the energy to stay or commands it to leave. You cannot just hope the energy goes away. You must command it with the authority of your own soul. You must stand before that object, touch it with your physical hand, and say words that set a boundary. Say this: I acknowledge the history of this object. I honor those who held it before me. But I now sever all cords to the past. This object is now neutral. It is mine, and it serves only the light of this present moment. When you do this, you will feel a physical shift in the room. The air will get lighter. The shadows in the corner of your vision will disappear. The heaviness in your chest will lift. This brings us to the most difficult part of the alchemist's protocol: the release of what cannot be saved. There are some objects that hold a charge so heavy and so dark that they cannot be cleansed. Maybe it is the chair where a loved one spent their final months in agony. Maybe it is a ring that was worn during a violent marriage. You hold on to these things out of guilt. You think that by throwing away the object, you are throwing away the person. This is the great illusion. Cayce teaches us that love is a vibration that transcends matter. Love does not live in a watch. It does not live in a dusty coat. Those items are just shells. If you walk into a room in your house and your stomach tightens or your energy drops, you are detecting a discordant frequency. Your body is the most advanced radar system on the planet. Trust it. If an object drains you, it is feeding on you. It is acting as a parasitic anchor, keeping you tied to a time that no longer exists. You must give yourself permission to release it. You are not disrespecting the dead by protecting the living. In fact, you are doing them a service. By releasing the object, you are releasing the earthbound fragment of their energy that is stuck here. You are helping them move on. You are cutting the balloon string so they can float higher. This is your mission. You are not a hoarder of memories. You are the guardian of your temple. Your home should be a battery that recharges you, not a cemetery that drains you. Every item in your space must pay rent in the form of positive energy. If it does not bring you peace, if it does not bring you joy, if it does not serve a function, it has to go. This is the harsh truth of spiritual hygiene. You cannot ascend to a higher level of consciousness if you are weighed down by the physical debris of the past. Now I need you to do something that confirms you are ready to take this authority. I need you to look at your space with new eyes today, not as a collection of furniture, but as a collection of energies, and I want you to make a declaration. Go to the comments right now and write this down to seal your intent. Write, I am the guardian of my home. I release the past to make room for my future. Say it. Write it. Feel the truth of it in your bones. Because once you clear the static, once you seal the mirrors and release the anchors, you are going to find that your dreams change. You will stop dreaming of being chased or being lost, and you will start receiving the messages you were meant to hear all along. The channel will finally be clear. But there is one final piece to this puzzle. One specific time of night when the veil is thinnest and when your newly cleansed home becomes a receiving station for higher guidance. It happens between 3 and 4 in the morning. If you have been waking up at this time, it is not insomnia. It is an invitation. And in the next video, we are going to talk about exactly what to do in those quiet hours to access the records that Cayce himself accessed. You are closer than you think.